Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I'm going to wait a couple of minutes before I get started. This shouldn't be a long live stream, so I hope that you all can bear with me. So I'll just wait a couple of minutes. I want to encourage people again to follow me on Twitter at New Pos Blog and also on Facebook at New Possibilities. So I see that we have a couple of people in the house, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Shout out to T-Boy. Thanks for tuning in. So I'm going to share my screen. Before I do so, I'm going to look up some definitions real quick. Just bear with me a second. I'll be with you in 1 second. Just bear with me. I'll be right back. Just want to pull up these definitions. Okay, so let's get right into it. Today I was on YouTube and I saw that another YouTuber had posted this tweet that Tariq Nasheed put out. And that YouTuber's name is Haven Bullets. You know, I encourage you all to check out his channel because he's been focusing on the ADOS movement and Tariq Nasheed's foundational Black Americans movement, if you want to call it that. And he's been highlighting a lot of key points about those movements and coming up with like powerful critiques of both of those related movements. So I encourage you all to check out his channel. I'm going to try to find the link to his posting of that particular tweet, and I'll post that in the description box so that you all can go to his channel. Fortunately, he's able to check out this stuff and pull out this information. I have limited time, so I don't have time to monitor these other people and check out what they're talking about. But when I saw this tweet, I was like, it epitomizes like a lot of the problems that I have with Tariq Nasheed and many people that are like him here on YouTube. So what I'm going to do is share my screen. Shout out to Sean. Thanks for coming back for this one. I'm going to share my screen for a second. Okay, so here's the tweet. Tariq Nasheed put out this tweet today, and it says, foundational Black American men are doing our part to protect Black women by not voting for Democrats who will ignore foundational Black American issues and prioritize immigration. This is why violent immigrants like Tory Lanez are allowed over to harm our sisters. Now, that's what he had to say. And what I'm going to do is go through this and break down a lot of the things that he's saying and just provide my response. And, I use this image and I tweeted out that this is the kind of demagoguery, bigotry, ignorance, stupidity, and bullshit that passes for Black consciousness today. I talk about how, just like Trump, they bash and scapegoat immigrants. It is no coincidence that these race pimps are helping Donald Trump discourage Black people from voting. So I'm going to go into this. First of all, as you all know, there's this popular movement online called the American Descendants of Slaves. The co-founders are Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore. It is a movement that professes to be about promoting reparations for African Americans. But in fact, this movement is highly anti-immigrant. I provided quotes before, and I'm not going to rehash those quotes again, of the anti-immigrant sentiment that Yvette Carnell has spouted before, and Tone Talks. He's put out anti-immigrant statements as well. So you have this movement, ADOS, that gained a lot of traction. So let me just stop sharing my screen so you all can see me, and I'll just read from my phone. Hold on one second. Yeah, so you had this movement gain all this traction. Once Yvette Carnell and Tone Talk start pushing for reparations and tying that to anti-immigrant sentiment, that movement began to take off online. And Tariq Nasheed saw that. And what he wanted to do is tap into that. So he began to regurgitate a lot of the anti-immigrant rhetoric of ADOS and make it his own. He decided to adopt that ideology because he saw that it was gaining traction in the marketplace of ideas online. And in order to be able to monetize it in a way where he would not have to give credit to Yvette Carnell and them, and have to break profits and all that kind of stuff, this man came up with his own term, foundational Black Americans, which is just the same thing. It's just a way that he could have something that he can claim as his own and not have to give credit to them. So he created this term, and he tried to embrace a lot of their rhetoric, a lot of their anti-immigrant rhetoric. So in this thing, he talks about foundational Black Americans, and he's basically suggesting, before I get into the other issues, I'm going to go straight to the heart of this, and that's this immigration issue. Like, he's basically making it seem as if immigrants are highly violent, as if immigrants are the problem. That's what he's doing with this tweet. He says, this is why violent immigrants like Tory Lanez are allowed to harm our sisters, are allowed over to harm our sisters. That's what this guy says. That's the rhetoric that he puts out here. All this kind of statement does is stoke fear. It makes people hateful towards immigrants. And it's a way of scapegoating immigrants and blaming immigrants for problems that exist in our community. When the fact of the matter is, Black women, Black American women are not being threatened in large degree due to immigrants. A lot of the violence that Black women, Black American women in particular, face is at the hands of Black American men. It's not the immigrant that is posing some kind of threat to Black women. But this is the kind of rhetoric that these people put out here. They want to scapegoat immigrants and blame immigrants for all the problems that exist in the Black community. And that is no different from any other form of bigotry and prejudice that exists out here. It's no different from anti-Semitism, like blaming Jews for all the problems under the sun. It's no different from anti-Black racism, where these racists try to blame all crime on Black people, try to suggest that Black people are criminal by nature and that we're the cause of a lot of the problems in America. It is no different from that. It's no different from the same kind of scapegoating that the Nazis were responsible for during Nazi Germany, where they blamed all the problems that existed in German society on Jews. And, it's just a shame that somebody that professed to be so against Black racism and white supremacy is engaging in conduct that's similar to white supremacists, engaging in the same kind of sickening, hateful type of rhetoric that white supremacists engage in. And so before I continue on, I just want to shout out Elaine. Thank you for your donation. Elaine said you're doing regular videos. It's the bright spot of my year. I love how reasonable and logical you are. It's such a pleasant way to end my evening. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that. I really appreciate you regularly tuning in and watching my content. It means a lot. But I just had to address this because you can't condemn prejudice and bigotry when you practice prejudice and bigotry. And that's what we have in this situation. Again, it's not the immigrant that's harming our women. Often it's the African American man that's more likely to engage in violence against African American women. And, by making that statement, I'm not saying that, the majority of African American men are harming Black women. But when you look at who's harming Black women, it is Black men that's doing that, Black American men. So quit scapegoating immigrants. Quit pretending like immigrants are the problem. And the other thing is this, like a lot of these people, this guy is pretending like he's so concerned about violence against women and disrespect of women. As somebody else pointed out, like in the comments to this particular tweet, like, I wonder where he was like with R. Kelly. Like, what did he have to say about the things that R. Kelly has done to Black women? And we know where he was when it came to a Bill Cosby. This man defended Bill Cosby, not only against the white women that charged him with these crimes. He defended Bill Cosby against charges from Black women, saying that he had raped them and abused them and stuff like that. He defended this guy. But yet he wants to pretend like he's all about protecting the women. How can you really be about protecting women when you have used your platform in the past to say disrespectful things about women? How can you be talking about protecting the women when you got wealthy putting out books talking about how to exploit women and mac women and pimp women and all that kind of stuff? How can you talk about protecting the women when you have done, you participated in a Michael Moore movie, basically playing the role of a pimp, being a modern day coon, as you constantly talk about people cooning. How can you talk about protecting women? But so that's the thing. And then, this whole not voting thing, I just want to get into that for a second. By putting that out there, as I've said time and time again, this guy is essentially doing Donald Trump's work for him. See, people like Donald Trump, as President Obama pointed out, they're going to do one or two things. They're going to make it harder for people to vote, and they're going to do everything that they can to discourage people from voting. And people like Tariq Nasheed and all these other fake pro-Black people on here, that's essentially what they're doing. They're trying to discourage you from going out to vote. And all that's doing is helping Donald Trump get reelected. That's all it does. And it is not a coincidence to me that some of these people would do that, because they share some of the items on Donald Trump's agenda. Why these people talk about a Black agenda, really they share things in common with Donald Trump. They are just as anti-immigrant as Donald Trump. They share that anti-immigrant sentiment. So I would not be surprised to see them trying to indirectly help this man get reelected. And that's what this guy is essentially doing. I mean, and this is not the first time this guy has called on people not to vote. He's making it seem as if not voting is some kind of way to leverage the Black vote in such a way that you will get them to make concessions. I mean, if that were true, why didn't it work the last time that you did this? I mean, you organized this Don't Vote campaign. And I think that was actually, I think that was in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, when he had that Don't Vote campaign, or it may have been earlier. But you had that Don't Vote campaign back then. If that was supposed to leverage the Black vote in such a way that they would be forced to make concessions and forced to embrace reparations, Where's the evidence that that had an effect? And if it was so effective, why are you doing it again? Why are you recycling the same method if it was so effective? And the other thing is this, like, constantly, these people constantly put out this lie that these people, that the Democrats are prioritizing immigration over Black issues. The fact of the matter is, as I said time and time again, the Biden campaign has put together a Black agenda in response to the concerns of the Black community, in response to the criticism of Joe Biden for backing the 1994 crime bill, in response to people like Diddy saying, we're not just going to give you our vote. So they have put out a Black agenda, an agenda for Black communities. And it's up to us to say, you forgot, you didn't put in this item, you didn't put in that item, and we demand that you change these policies or implement those policies. That's on us. That's what we have to do, just like every single interest group does. These other groups don't just say, oh, we're going to sit out this election. No, they demand things from these elected officials. The immigrant groups, the LGBT groups, the environmental groups, the pro-Israel lobby, the gun lobby, all of these different special interests have issues that they push before these politicians and demand that they implement. They rate these politicians based on their track record in terms of them passing certain laws or taking certain actions. They rate and judge them and grade them and all that kind of stuff. They hold them accountable, and that's what we need to do. And that's what many people in our community are doing, despite what you hear these fake conscious people say. There are plenty of Black people and Black organizations that are doing this work. So that's something that had to be pointed out. It's just funny how these people that talk all this rhetoric against white supremacy find themselves in alignment with white supremacy. That's how they find themselves. They're on the same side of immigration as Donald Trump. They're on the same side of immigration as these alt-right people and the David Dukes of the world. And the thing that's so sick about it, not only are these people like Tariq Nasheed or the ADOS people like Yvette Carnell, anti-immigrant in general, they are specifically anti-Black immigrant. Anti-Black immigrant. So, while these other people primarily direct their anti-immigrant sentiment towards Latino immigrants, people from Latin America and stuff like that, these Black people that are supposed to be so Black and so down with the people, they are directing their animus towards other Black people. Thank you for your donation. I appreciate it. Yeah, so they're directing their animosity towards other Black people. And the thing that's interesting, this is not like what Tariq Nasheed was about before. He's just hopping on a bandwagon. I mean, this guy was about promoting the interests of melanated people worldwide. This guy traveled around the world to Black countries and stuff like that. And has spoken to Black people from around the world. He did a film about Black people. In Haiti, he did a film about the Haitian Revolution. But yet now he hates immigrants and stuff like that. And based on this particular tweet, you would get the idea that the Canadian immigrants are some kind of threat, like there's some kind of violent group of immigrants. And there's no proof of this. There's no proof that there's all these Canadian immigrants coming here to harm Black women. There's no proof that Black immigrants are the ones that are harming Black women and Black people and stuff like that. Most violence is committed within groups, you know, like violence against white people is primarily committed by other white people, and violence against African Americans is primarily committed by other African Americans. Quit scapegoating immigrants. Quit blaming them for your situation. Like these ADOS people blame immigrants for the poverty in the Black community, blame immigrants for the lack of educational opportunities at college. It's like I mean, I just think that blaming people for your problems is a fundamental sign of weakness. It's a fundamental sign of weakness, and it's no different from what this white man has done to Black people over the years. Yeah, so I just had to point this out. And, you know, I would not be surprised if, you know, these people are being covertly propped up by Trump, but I don't have any proof of that. But either way you look at it, they are helping Donald Trump. And that's why I don't have respect for these people. That's why I don't have respect for somebody that's ginning up some anti-immigrant sentiment when what happened to Megan Thee Stallion has nothing to do with immigration reform. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. And that's why I refer to this guy as a demagogue, because that's what he is. And let's look up the word demagogue for people that aren't familiar with it. So it says a demagogue is a leader who makes popular prejudice. He makes use of popular prejudice and false claims and promises in order to gain power. Again, a leader who makes use of popular prejudice and false claims and promises in order to gain power. And that's what you have here. You know, this popular prejudice against immigrants and these false claims about violent immigrants and the need to protect Black women from these violent immigrants. You had this one situation involving this one guy and this one woman, and he's painting a broad brush to make it seem as if immigrants are the ones threatening our Black women. And then, you know, there's another word that's relevant right now for this person, and that's charlatan. You know, the definition of a charlatan is a quack, you know, one making usually showy pretenses to knowledge or ability, a fraud, a faker. And that's what these people, I mean, that's what he is. He's a fake conscious person, a fake pro-Black, man. Anytime you're attacking other Black people and stuff like that, based on their immigrant status in order to profit off of it, in order to get attention off of it, you're a charlatan and you're a demagogue. And unfortunately, this is what passes for Black consciousness nowadays. So yeah, I just had to share these thoughts. Tell me what you think. I'm going to look at your comments real quick. And again, I want to thank the people that made donations. Thank you. All of our, Bolivia, thank you for your donation. You said reparations. Yeah, I want to thank you. Let me go through your comments. Yeah, so while he's telling, I mean, like my question is, what does this guy do besides sell products? I mean, what does he do besides sell people documentaries and Ogun juice? What does he do? Because I don't see him organizing any kind of demonstrations. I don't see him organizing any kind of lobbying efforts. I don't see him encouraging people to vote for certain candidates for federal office or for president. I don't see him using the main means to create change, like, you know, legislation, protest, or even litigation. I don't see him like financially supporting any kind of lawsuits against, you know, any kind of civil rights litigation or any of that kind of stuff. So my question is, what does he do besides put out things that profit him? I mean, he is no different from any other kind of hustler. And I'm not going to repeat what I said in a prior video, but you all get the idea. So yeah, I just had to do this video. When I saw that particular tweet, I was just annoyed by it. So let's see what else people were saying. Yeah, so Lady Kendra said, how is not voting protecting Black women? Exactly, that has nothing to do with protecting Black women. Sitting at home on your ass is not helping anybody. That's not protecting anyone. You sitting at home doesn't make somebody safe. You sitting at home wouldn't make Megan Thee Stallion safe from what happened to her. Sitting at home does nothing. Anybody can sit at home. There's nothing brave or courageous about that. That is not how you protect women or anybody. It's like the man went from pimping, women and stuff like that, at least in theory, in terms of the Mackin lessons and all that kind of stuff, to pimping these gullible people that are in this so-called conscious community and stuff. If this is what woke represents, I don't want to be woke. If this is what being pro-Black is supposed to be, then I don't want to be that. And it's just a shame that that's what it gets associated with when you have these race pimps like this guy, doing whatever they can to exploit a situation. And now they're not just, he's not focused on these white supremacy so much as he is focused on these Black immigrants and stuff like that. And the same is true for ADOS, like, in terms of their focus and their energy all directed towards, immigrants instead of the root cause of a lot of our problems. Yeah, so let's see. Again, shout out to Elaine Lloyd. Thank you for your donation. I appreciate that. Yeah, so Lady Kendra said he goes wherever he can make money. Yeah, and that's absolutely true. Like one day he's a rap artist. The next day he's some R&B singer. One day he's a pimp. The next day he's some kind of relationship coach. Then after that he's the conscious YouTube personality. Then a movie director. I mean, this guy is trying, and I don't have no problem with somebody trying to get their money up and all that kind of stuff. But don't be a fraud. Don't exploit people's emotions just for attention and money. Don't, project prejudice and bigotry toward other Black people just so that you can get retweets and get all this attention and get, more subscribers and views and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so Lady Kendra said he has no integrity. He doesn't even care about sisters. Tell Tariq Nasheed to shut the fuck up. Yeah, I mean, I feel you. Like when you look at like his past content, where he's making these disparaging remarks about Black women and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's hard for somebody to take him seriously when he's talking about quote unquote protecting Black women, especially in this context when you're suggesting you're protecting somebody by sitting at home and not voting. I mean, that is the dumbest thing I ever heard of in my life. Part of me just wonders, are these people being paid by Donald Trump? Yeah, so I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Let's see. Yeah, I feel you. 45 has got to go. exactly. I mean, how can you talk about white supremacy, anything, and you're not trying to get this man out of office? A man who's proven that he's openly racist and hostile to our interests? Just bear with me. I'm just looking through these comments. Yeah, so Elaine said going against Canadians is dumb. A good portion of Americans want to be Canadian. Um, they just won't let us over. Yeah, I mean, especially like with what's going on now. Like, I mean, in Canada, they got free health care and all this stuff that we don't have here. Um, so this suggesting that these Canadians, I mean, like that's what he's implying, that Canadians are dangerous and stuff like that. They're the ones we got to be worried about. They're the ones we need to protect our women from and stuff. It's just something else. Yeah, he definitely shouldn't be a leader, but like anytime you have tens of thousands of people subscribe to you, and tens of thousands of people that listen to your word as if it's the gospel truth, you're a leader. And he has disclaimed leadership, but the fact of the matter is he's a leader. What he says matters. Like that tweet has been retweeted, and I'm sure that a lot of people are like, yeah, right on, like I agree with you, I'm down with what you're talking about, I'm not voting either. Like you got all these people that are simple minded, they're like sheep, they just go along with what Tariq Nasheed is talking about. Yeah, it's just something else. But yeah, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. I don't want to make this too long. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your donations. But yeah, it's just clear, man. It's like this is just a blatant example of prejudice. It's a blatant example of bigotry. A blatant example of demagoguery and charlatanism. I mean, this guy. I mean, his answer to police brutality is selling people Ogun juice. I mean, what else can you say about this guy? So anyway, please rate, comment, subscribe, like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content on here. Tell me what y'all think about this. Peace and blessings. Have a good night.